The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Wiley Drake, and this is Orly Tates. I'm going to be quiet and go over and get her.
They got all the information. They seem to be attentive. For example, the Superior Court judge stated that, in his opinion, the case was filed in Orange County instead of Sacramento County, and this is the reason to dismiss it. I did read to them a law that states that you cannot dismiss a case simply because it's filed in the wrong Superior Court of the state of California. You're supposed to simply transfer the case to another court. So clearly the judge urged, and with his discretion, he didn't even provide any statute that would say that you have to dismiss the case. I provided them with all the information showing that all the parties were properly served. As a matter of fact, Mr. Golfin is here he is, and he personally served Diane Feinstein, and he personally served Elizabeth Emkin. I provided the court with information that Barack Obama was served both by certified mail, and I showed them the receipt that he was also served twice by personal service. I used one-day service in Washington, D.C. The reason he didn't respond, I think, is because he did not want to be under the jurisdiction of his court, because he knows that he is using invalid IDs, and I think he was afraid that he would have to produce the documents, and since he has nothing to produce. I also provided the court with information that in our databases, we have thousands of people who were born in 1850 and who are still voting. And I believe Mr. Collins was here, George Collins. He was an expert. Maybe he had to go to work, so he just left. But he was in court, and he was in Superior Court as well. And he's a relational data expert, and he worked for NADA. You know, if somebody is good enough to provide data analysis for North Atlantic Treaty, I think he is good enough to provide information for Judge Marginis here in Orange County. And he provided him with information that here in the state of California, we have invalid voter registrations. And this issue has to be heard on the merits, because we have elections coming, 2014, 2016. We need to make sure that we have valid voter registrations, particularly now when California legislature has decided to give driver's licenses to illegals. So because of the motor voter law, when people go to the DMV to get their driver's license, they automatically get forms to register to vote. So all of those illegals can be registering to vote, and if the courts refuse to hear this on the merits, then we do not have valid elections. And they seem to be receptive to this. They listen carefully. Looking at the demeanor of the judges, I think Judge Feibel, who was, I guess, the presiding judge, was more receptive. And actually, when I saw him, I said, "Are you Judge Feibel?" He said, "Yes." And I told him, "You swore me. I took an oath to protect."
Wiley Drake show today. We're also going to be talking about a book.
The senior judge who swore me as an attorney, and I take my oath of office very seriously, just like people here, the oath keepers. We all take our oath very seriously as an officer of the court. It is important to protect the U.S. Constitution, to protect legitimate elections.
Orly, let me ask you, the judge seemed to be very respectful towards you and interested in hearing you out. He said, "Take your time."
Yeah.
He wanted to hear you. How long do you think it'll take before he'll give you his written answer?
Well, it's not here. It's a panel of 3 judges. So each one of the 3 judges needs to come up with a decision, and then I guess it's going to be a vote. If 2 of them decide in my favor, then the case will be reversed, and we go back to the Superior Court.
If it does go back to the Superior Court, couldn't the judge it's assigned to then simply deny all your evidence, refuse to let it into evidence to further stonewall you?
Well, I mean, anything can happen, you know, aside from death and taxes, nothing is for sure. But, I think that if a court of appeals will decide in my favor, whoever will get this case, and typically if a court of appeals reverses a decision by a superior court judge, then they would assign it to a different judge. It will not go to Judge Marginis again. Whoever the judge is going to be, I think he's going to look very carefully at what is going on, because he would know that the Court of Appeals reversed the decision of prior judge. So I think they're going to be very careful and will think twice before dismissing the case, if the Court of Appeals decides in my favor.
Now, you did get a case in Georgia, and my cameras were there, and we got all of that on tape, but Barack Obama's attorney didn't even show up. Is that likely to happen if you do get this to a trial?
Again, I think they will show up. Just recently, actually, just yesterday, I was talking on the phone with Mr. Daniel Van Horn, who is the chief attorney, chief of the civil division of the U.S. Department of Justice. And I had a situation where I filed yet another case in Washington, D.C., and that relates to their fabricated postal stamp, on Barack Obama's fabricated selective service registration. And the case is filed against the Postmaster General and the Inspector of USPS. So there I filed, I was seeking default judgment or a summary judgment, and what the judge did actually, he contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office and to get a response from them. Why didn't they respond to the complaint? He did not want to give the decision in my favor automatically, but when the court basically contacted, the judge called them, and when they heard from the court, suddenly they did file an answer, and they said that somehow the complaint and summons got lost within the Department of Justice, which is unbelievable. And they said, here's, by the way, George Collins, who is a relational data expert who was instrumental in finding information.
This is George Collins that she was referring to a little while ago. We welcome him here today.
When the judge asked the Department of Justice or would ask Mr. Obama why you didn't file an answer, then they typically would respond. I don't think they will fail to respond yet again if the case is reversed. So I think they will. And in that case, Mr. Van Horn stated that the papers were lost, and that for 3 months they were trying to find them and they could not find them. And then I provided the judge and that Judge Royce Lambert in Washington, D.C. I have provided him with the certified mail receipt and other certified mail receipts from other cases, and he can see that in each and every receipt there is the same signature of the same clerk by name Eddie Hayes. So how could they say that the papers got lost and they don't know where to look, and they were looking and trying to find for 3 months and couldn't, where in all of the cases and all of the receipts, including the one in that case, it's exactly the same signature. So how could it be lost? But that's what they're claiming. So we'll see what happens.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.